All right, we're recording. Very good. Hey, so thank you ever so much for coming out to visit once again. Let me get my my act together here. Today, we are going to be focusing on Microsoft Word. A lot of these principles can be applied to PowerPoint and some of the other tools, and they also transfer over to the Google Docs. You just have to find the secret handshake to do it, but pretty much everything kind of works the same. So that is a good thing. But this will help you develop documents that are more accessible, and that way they reach everyone in your class, not just the one, the folks part of the folks. So you want to make sure everybody is able to get access to your documents and be able to see them correctly. So with that said, what I'm going to do is share my Microsoft Word document with you, and I'm going to just kind of enlarge it a little bit. Yeah, there we go. All right. Let's just start sharing. All right, so you should now be able to see my Microsoft Word document. And I went ahead and just pasted some text in there. It's nonsensical because I didn't want you to focus on exactly what I was presenting, but more on what I'm presenting. So that made sense. I don't know if that did or not, but we'll kind of do that. So you can copy and paste in text, but you're not necessarily certain of how the text is formatted. So one of the things that I recommend, let me click up on the home menu item, is first select all your text. There's many ways to do this. I'm just moving down my page and selecting text. And on your menu bar from home, there is a little button that clears all the formatting. And that will strip all the formatting from your text, and that way you can honestly mark it up correctly, as opposed to going with what they have, which may look like it's correct, but it's not necessarily correct. Okay, so I like to start with just clean content and mark it up correctly and go from there. And let me pull up my chat here. I saw it flashing at me. Where'd it go? Where's my chat? Oh, thanks, John. And welcome everyone else that has popped into the screen. So I appreciate it. So starting off with a clean bit of text. What I know people to do is they'll look at this and say, oh, I want that to be bold. I want that to be larger than everything else. And they'll mark it up like this and say, well, that's my heading. But that's not true, right? A screen reader does not recognize that as a heading. And so therefore, it's not done correctly. So I am going to go clear the formatting of that, and we'll start at the beginning. On your home menu item, one of the areas you have is called Styles. And on there, you have, for example, heading 1. And so I can mark that as heading 1. And then later down the page, I have, say, links. I want that also to be heading 1. And finally, this last section, I'm going to mark as heading 1. So that identifies the heading 1s. And I can do the same thing with heading level 2 and use a heading level 2. And I'll mark this as a heading level 2. Okay, so that will identify the headings the way they are correctly identified for a screen reader. And Shannon is raising her hand. Yes, Shannon?
Why would we identify those as all heading 1 as opposed to identifying them as separate headings?
Heading 1 is just the style. It's the way we want to look. So if you are building an outline and using Roman numerals, so Roman numeral 1, Roman numeral 2, Roman numeral 3, those would all be heading 1.
Okay.
And then the sub area, so if you went down and under Roman numeral 1, you had A, B, and C, those would be heading 2.
Oh, okay, thank you.
And then under 1A, you could have 1, 2, 3, and those would be heading 3.
Okay, thank you.
So it's delineating your document, identifying what the major areas are, and so therefore you're identifying them as headings.
Okay.
Great question. Cindy.
So Stan, so what you're saying is if I put those headings in, for instance, in my syllabus and I had like attendance, quizzes, exams, they could all be at heading 1 style, right?
Absolutely.
Okay, great, thank you.
You know, and you know, you could further delineate it is, you know, participation requirements, and under there you had attendance, and under there you had discussion boards, and under, you know, so
Okay.
so the participation requirements would be heading 1, attendance and discussions would be a heading 2.
Great. Okay.
Okay.
Yep, makes sense.
Okay, so as you're looking at this, you're saying to yourself maybe, yeah, but I don't want this to look like that. Right? It's like, that's not how I want my heading 1 to look. Actually, so what I can do is I can highlight that heading 1. Maybe I want to change the color to a dark blue. I don't want to get too light because then I have other issues dealing with color. I want this to be, say, left justified. And I want this to be a little bigger, maybe 18 points. So what I can do is once I have the heading set the way I want, I can then right-click up in the styles on the heading, and I can select Update Heading 1 to match selection. Right? So now down in my document, that links, which is a heading 1, has changed to meet my style. So both of my headings are exactly the way I want them. And once again, if I was to do this with level 2, maybe I don't want it that big. I want it to be 14. And I want this to be, say, in line with the text. And perhaps I want to increase the spacing before the paragraph and after. And we'll give it just a weird font. I'm going to give it Algerian. I wouldn't do this, but for today I am doing this. So that's how I want my heading 2. So I go to the styles, I right click on it, and update my heading 2 to match selection. And now my heading 2s are both the same. Clear as mud? Okay.
Oh, that makes sense.
The other benefit for this document is if I went to view and the navigation pane, it will pull those items out on the navigation pane. So now I can click on them and go to that part of the document very easily. So it's kind of an added bonus. So if you go to view, you can click on navigation pane and allows you to move through your content pretty easily. Okay. So paragraphing. Say I want my links to be on page 2. What I often see is somebody going to the paragraph before, hitting enter until it gets pushed down to the next document or to the next page. The screen readers read this as paragraph markers all the way down. So if you've got a page full of them, that's not good. So let me get rid of those. So it comes back here, and then what you can do is insert what's called a paragraph break, right? So I can break the page by going to insert and selecting right before links and page break. And so it moves it to the next page. This is very useful, especially if you're modifying your document and you're not thinking about where you initially push those pages up and down, that it ends up being, a format that's kind of wild, and you got things, lots of spaces that you don't need. And now if I hit backspace, whoops, I lost my formatting. So I'll go back to heading 1 for that. Okay. And then I'm back to where I was. So it's the same that if you want to indent text, that you have a normal style that I can click on the normal style and it will indent it, ½ an inch. And that's a lot better than trying to indent text by using the space bar to move it in. That is not the correct way to do it. So use the rulers, use the styles in order to control how you want this information. So if this being normal text, maybe I don't want it that far out. I want to control it to here. Once again, I can right click on my normal style and say update all the normal to match. And it automatically will reformat my document more appropriately. And tabs are another way to move text in blocks that you can use tabs. All right, let us add an image. So I want to say add an image right after here. I am just going to insert a picture from this device. And so I want to add this Creative Commons. So I'm going to insert that particular image. And I can certainly, resize it to get it the way I want. One of the things that's important for this is to add the alternative text. On the picture format, there is a button for alternative text. And if you right click on it, you can also edit alternative text or alt text. And this is, very simple. It's Creative Commons. That's what the image happens to say. And so I can just put that in and it will mark up that image so that way a screen reader, as it's going through the document, will be able to, when it gets to that image, it'll be told it's an image, and this is what that image is about. So if you're using an image to, you know, and it's got textual information, ideally you should copy that textual information and put it in the description. If it happens to be another image, so let me add another image that happens to be just so this one is just, you know, showing an example of marking up a page. So with red ink. And that's what the image is. If it's purely decorative, you know, you gotta purely decorative, then you can just click on mark it decorative, and that'll be acceptable. But if in most cases, if you're putting an image up there, it's there to support your instruction, then you need to, you know, put some textual information about that. Cindy.
Where did you just type that in?
Okay.
I saw you typing, so, but I don't see anywhere on the screen where we do that.
Yeah, so basically I go to the image,
Uh-huh.
I right click on it, and down towards the bottom of the menu, there is edit alt text. And it will bring that information up.
Okay. And then that lets you type in it, and then
That's it. Yeah.
and then you, okay.
So another area that we need to, I guess, attend to a little bit is creating tables. So we'll go and basically create a table. So the correct way to insert a table is to actually use the table tool in order to do that. So you go to insert and you have table. And the drop-down menu will allow you to choose how many rows and how many columns that you want to add. So you would go ahead and select your rows and columns. Prior to this, you should have something that says, you know, table 1, I don't know, days, years. We'll throw months in there just for fun. And then a little description of the table. So a description of the table to identify it. Then your first row, you would put your headers, right? So days, years, months, because I'm not being clever right now. And then from there, you know, I can do 1, 2, 3, 2020, 2021, 2022. It's wishful thinking. And then maybe January, February, March. Okay, so that's a basic table. Everybody's got that pretty much down. Everybody understands that. But it's important to have this header row at the top. So from here, you basically right click and you go to table properties. And let's see if I can get this right. And then you click on row. there's a tab that will say row. And what you want to do is check the box that says repeat as header row at the top of each page. Now, your table may not have, may not go multiple pages, but if it does, it'll also put that header row at the top, but it identifies that first row as a header row. And select OK. And so now that particular row is identified as a header row. And so for all those things that, the ally, when it's barking at you for the header row, that's what it's basically asking about. Questions? Okay. Let me just make sure I'm not missing anything. Cindy, yes.
The other rows, will the reader that they're using just read what's in those columns?
Yep.
Okay.
And it will associate it with the header row. So it'll, mention that, the under days, bum, 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 bum,
Okay, great, because that's how I do my grading thing. You know what I mean? So,
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. Any other questions? Anybody else? Nope. Okay. All right. So the next thing is talking about adding links to your document. So, well, let me just focus on, make sure I didn't miss anything in the headers. Oh yeah. So just a couple things dealing with the headers. They recommend that you don't merge, basically split and merge cells, that you keep it as clean and simple as possible. As Jeff Davis always, has mentioned, it's going to be as boring as possible, right? So when you start merging cells, it makes it more complicated and adds errors into what you're doing. You can also, when you are working with this table, in the table properties, I believe, you have the ability for alt text. So if your table is really complicated, this is a place that you will also want to put information to clarify it, right? So if the data is there, you may want to draw their attention to a specific part of the data. It also depends on how much descriptive information that you provided ahead of time before they access the table. But if the table is going to stand alone, you want to make sure that you provide ample description. So if you're using it, as a learning asset, you want to make sure everybody can benefit from using that learning asset. Okay. All right. Let's see. Where am I at here? And the same thing, with if you're going to put a chart in, or, basically showing data, keep in mind somebody who has to consume the information by hearing it only, right? So it's trying to put yourself into their place where, and there's screen readers that you can use to read your document and say, could I make sense of this if I couldn't see, right? And so that's kind of important pieces that you want to consider. All right, hyperlinks. In your document, you can put hyperlinks. A bad hyperlink is, for example, this. Just to drop that in, a screen reader will read everything. It'll read https://docs.google.com/document/d/I capital A U W. It will read that to you, and And that means nothing to me, and it means nothing to somebody who is listening to this with a screen reader. So that is not necessarily a good description of what you want. You can improve upon it by, for example, saying assignment 2, right? And then, using this part of the document as you right click on your that title here to create a link. And so now that is a clickable link. It'll take you to the document. A screen reader will read it as link assignment number 2. But you can further improve upon it by making it as descriptive as possible. Where it says maybe assignment number 2, a case study on accessibility. Okay, so that will make it as useful as possible to somebody that's reading. And we talked about this in Blackboard, having your links be, descriptive like that. The problem with, say what I had a paragraph up here. Let me go up here. I got multiple paragraphs. So, I created a link, read more. And let me turn that into a hyperlink. And so I have this, it says read more, and I have that on a variety of different places that I want folks to go read more. Well, as the screen reader is going down the page, one of the options is that you can list the links that are available. And it's going to go, say, indicate that the links are read more, read more, read more, read more, read more, read more. And that is not useful to somebody as a screen reader. They have to go to each link and figure out what the heck that is. And if you're asking them to refer to something in your document, that'll link out to something else, that's where those very descriptive, where you have those descriptions. So you can use those particular links within your document. And this is where this quasi-Latin text is probably not to my benefit today. That I could just highlight a portion of that text and create a link that would naturally work in that document, right? Where I may be referring to a case study, see the case study on blah, 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 and it links out to that document. Instead of at the end saying read more, that is just not as useful. So try to make it as naturally fitting within your document as possible to help make it work. Questions? Cindy?
I do. What about links that are already like in our syllabi, like links for the library, accessibility information and so forth? Can we copy and paste those in, or is there another way that we have to do that now?
Yeah, you should be able to copy and paste them. Okay. I'm just, encouraging you to keep in mind trying to make what the text reads right as descriptive as possible, without getting into paragraphs. Right. So it's just easier for somebody, both folks that can see and folks that can't see, being able to identify, oh, that's the link I want. So if you're referring to the case study on accessibility in what you're writing, but all you do is show assignment number 2,
Yeah.
it's just going to take the student longer to figure out what link you're talking about.
Right, right.
Okay. All right. So lists. We have lots of opportunities for lists. So I'm going to use these links, for example. The way that you should not create lists is just typing 1 dot, 2 dot, 3 dot, etc. Okay. Just not necessarily using the tools appropriately. There are tools on the home menu item that you can select the items that you want, and you have different types of lists. You have an ordered list. So if you click on it, it will tell you 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Once again, it is good for a screen reader. Screen readers will appreciate that you've used that. Or you can change it to an unordered list. And so those tools will put the dots. If I was to indent from there, it will indent unless I tell it to use a specific format, changing the list levels and stuff like that. So it will bullet them accordingly, or if I use an ordered list, it will change them accordingly to have that outline structure to it. Okay, so different list levels, different lists, but that is the more correct way to do this. Once again, thinking about accessibility.
Is there some place where we can get information about those various list icons? Because I don't know what they all mean. Do you understand what I'm saying?
It's just decorative, right?
Yeah,
so
but no, I do make lists, but I'm saying the icons themselves, I don't know what each of those icons does differently. So I'm wondering if there's a document somewhere where I can read more about those.
I'm
and learn what they
sure
are.
there is, but so for unordered lists, all these are is decorative, right?
Right.
I may want to have squares instead of circles.
Yeah, I get it, but I didn't even know that icon meant unordered list. That's what I'm saying. Each of those things does something different. I understand left justify, right justify, center, but those things above it, those list things for the bullets, I don't know what each icon actually does.
Okay.
Now you're saying unordered list, ordered list. That's what I'm trying to figure out.
Okay. So these are also known as bulleted lists. So one of the things that you can do is you can mouse over the icon and it will pop up a little window that describes what each tool does. So this, for example, will sort things based on alphabetical order. So, which is kind of cool.
Yeah, that helps a lot to know that.
Yeah. So this particular list is not alphabetical, but I can sort it based on the paragraph by the text and reorder it automatically. That's cool. Through the list, right? So cool little tool. Columns. If in the event that you want to create columns of your information, what you would do is highlight your text, go to insert, and let's see, do I have columns here? I think I'm in the wrong place here. Oh, from layout, I'm sorry, layout. So you go to layout and you can select columns, and so I can split that into 2 columns.
Oh, that's useful.
A screen reader will not have a problem with that. It will just read it like it normally is supposed to. It'll just go down one column and then work its way over to the other column. So that does not hinder a speed reader at all, or a reader at all. With your text, your alignment for text should be left justified. So this is left justified. Ideally, when you're dealing with large blocks of text, that is the way that you should create your text. It is the easiest way that somebody reads it. It's called ragged right, left justified, ragged right, and that is the easiest way. Full justification actually makes it harder to read. And certainly right justification, center justification, those all, when you're dealing with blocks of text, that actually does not speed up reading and does not aid comprehension when you do it in these different styles. So left justified, ragged right, that's the way that you want to approach your text. Okay. And then, don't use these, you can insert like text boxes. There's different tools like a text box that you can insert into your screen, and just recommend just staying away from that. It's not going to help somebody in terms of accessibility with what you're trying to do. If you have extremely large documents, say, over 20 pages, one of the nice things to do is insert a table of contents. And a table of contents, you'd basically go over to the references and add a table of contents. And when you push it out to a PDF document, for example, there's something that you need to check to make sure that these are clickable links, but that will help somebody, get to a different part of the document if you're printing it out as a PDF. But so if you're using really large documents, table of contents is a useful tool.
So you can create the headers as clickable links as well?
Yes, yeah, with the navigation bar. So if they open up the document, they could then click to a portion of the document, go right to it.
Right, okay.
Right. And so the table of contents is I can press, control click, and it'll take me to that document with the table of contents. So these are, magical things as part of your document, but once again, useful for a screen reader.
All right.
Okay.
I think I missed how you did that, but in terms of making those titles clickable, the headers.
Yeah, let me get rid of this. Remove table of contents. So they become clickable simply because we assign them a heading style.
Oh, okay. So it's based on the heading style.
Yep. A lot of this magic is by using the tool correctly. Creating headings, in this case, will give me a navigational structure that I can use, part of the view, right, which allows me to, navigation pane, allows me to click to various parts. But also those headers, when I go to references and create a table of contents, it will use the headers to build that table of contents.
Okay.
So you will know immediately if you create a table of contents and say, half my stuff's missing, it's because the headers were not identified.
Okay.
So that's a way of doing it. Okay.
That makes sense.
All right, so we have a document. We have put this together. It's fabulous. One of the things that you can do is select File and go to Info. And from there, let's see, should be able to check for issues and check accessibility. And we got it right. There is no issues identified in this document.
Hey, Stan?
Yes, Jeff.
Yeah, so you can get to that real easily if you click on references. I'm sorry, review. Click on review.
References.
Oh, review. Go over to review. Two more over.
Okay.
Click on, and there's a button over to the left that says check accessibility, so you don't have to go, you know, nutso. One more over. There you go. You can just click on that. It'll take you there rather than having to go to file.
Perfect. Perfect.
And the additional nice part is it keeps it running down in the status bar if you have that turned on. So once you hit that button, the accessibility checker is running all the time.
Right.
Okay.
Yep. So yeah, that checkbox that he's talking about, you can turn it on or off, but it'll keep it running while you're working. So perfect. Thank you. Yeah, there's multiple ways to get what you want done, and yeah, that's kind of the crazy thing. So, but that'll tell you any accessibility issues. So, for example, let me see if we can create a problem here. So let me get rid of that. And let me get rid of that. And already the accessibility checker tells me that I'm missing 2 alternative texts for pictures 1 and 2. And so then I can go and add a description right from that accessibility checker, add a description for that particular image. So marking document with red ink, and here is Creative Commons. And now I no longer have accessibility issues with this particular document. So now that I have this document prepared, I have options for exporting it. So one option is to export it as a PDF document. To do that, you go to File, Export, select PDF XPS document. So you create a PDF XPS document. It is going to ask me where I want it to be saved. And so I'm just going to put it in my documents. But one of the things you want to do first is go to Options. And you want to make sure that your document has document structure tags for accessibility. Now, when I went in here earlier, it was automatically checked. But if not, you want to make sure that that, in fact, is checked.
What did you click on for that again?
So when it gets ready to save,
Uh-huh.
I clicked on Options.
Oh, okay.
And then I want to make sure that document structure tags for accessibility is checked. And so then I can publish that document. And so it brings up a PDF document. Just trust me on that. So.
And that works the same with Word as it does for PDF?
Well, what we're doing is we're taking our Word document
Are you
and
just changing it?
and changing it to PDF, saving
But-
it, you know.
If you save it as a Word, will all the properties still be there? It's like if
Yes.
you want to upload it as a Word? Okay,
Yep, absolutely. Yep,
okay, great.
absolutely. So let me, I'm going to share my screen differently. So let me stop that and go back to sharing screen. So it looks the same, but it now has more functionality. So another option that you have with this is to export this as an HTML file. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to save as, and let me give it a different, I'm going to save it as 3, and I am going to save it as a web page HTML file. And save. So now it is basically a web page. So I've saved this document, and I probably should have saved it as the other document first. Yeah, save it as your Word document first. That was not too smart. Save. Okay. And so now I have both. So I'm going to bring up my web browser. And the documents. So this looks like it's now a web page. It doesn't look like it, it actually is. What I could do is I could select all of that. I use Control A to highlight and select the whole screen, and then Control C, and I can go into Blackboard go into my little sandbox here. And I am going to create a page, a blank page. I could do an item, but a blank page is what I'm going to use. And so my new page, and basically I can paste that all in. The only issue that I will have is those images. I will have to update those 2 images as part of this, but it basically takes the layout with the headers and everything from the web page that I created. So
If you just insert it as a Word doc, those images will be okay?
yeah, if you just upload it as a Word document, yep, that'd be fine.
Okay,
I'm just, if you wanted to lay out some text and stuff like that. So
right.
that's,
Okay.
that's,
So what you're saying, Stan, is that if you do it as a Word doc, you save potentially the pictures, but you lose the formatting. And if you do it as a web page, you lose the pictures, but you save the formatting?
no, you will have the formatting for both, right? But yeah, if you know, so sometimes folks just like to have it marked up. So maybe I'm giving you too much information. I'm
Probably, because I'm like, why would I ever need a web page? I don't know.
well, you know, folks are laying out their courses in a variety of different ways. So that
I
is
know.
probably too much information. So we'll just ignore that. You know,
Okay.
we'll just ignore that. That's all good. All right, so we're away from there. What I
Decide
did
whether
wanna-
you're talking to Jeff or Catherine, because we are different audiences.
Understand.
I'm with Catherine. Yeah.
Cindy and Catherine are together, and Jeff
Uh-huh.
himself, and we love you, Jeff.
All right, I'm going to, in the chat, if I can find my chat here, is I am going to share a variety of documents with you. So there's 4 of them. So the first document is this comes from what's called a web aim, and it's very much accessibility. And so I've taken a lot of the instructions from there, things that we covered. These are very much step-by-step, follow the pictures documents. So that is a very useful tool. Let me get back to my chat. The next one is an accessible Word document checklist that talks about the same thing, you know, important things that you should consider when you're laying out your document. So those are the first two documents in the chat. This next tool is a contrast analyzer. So it will look at, you know, the color contrast in your page. And let me see if I have that running here somewhere. What color contrast. So it is a tool that basically looks like this. And so, you know, here is the background color. I can look at, for example, use the eyedropper and go select a color, and it will let me know on this color contrast analyzer that the you know, if this was the text, then it's probably got some issues. Let me use the contrast up here, and it still says it has issues. So whoever laid out this page probably didn't attend to their own guidance, saying that there's not enough contrast between the foreground and background and the foreground. But it allows you to go check, you know, different elements of your document to see what the results. It'll tell you if it passes or fails. So you may want to get something of a darker color. So that is the third link there. It's a contrast analyzer. And then finally, the last link that I have for you is this accessibility checker download. So you can drop a page in there, and it will also drop a PDF in there, and it will let you know if it meets accessibility or not. So just a few tools. So
two questions. One, can you send us those links in an email so we have them after we get off here?
What you can do
I
right
tried to
now,
copy and paste, but I can't get to my Word.
to your Word. Okay, no.
Oh, whatever.
So
that's what I usually do.
What you can do is where you type the message, right, in the chat.
Yeah.
Right? Just above that, you'll see it says to everyone. To the right of that, there's 3 dots. And if you click on the 3 dots, you have the opportunity to save the chat.
Okay. Where does it get saved to now, though?
To my documents.
So that's in my documents.
Yep.
Is it called chat? Am I going to be able to find it easily?
Yeah, so when you save that, right, it should have had a green bar that said chat saved.
Yeah.
And show in folder. Right? So if you click on it, show in folder, that'll show you what folder it's in.
Oh, didn't know that. So I already lost that green box.
Well, save it again, and
I'm going to save it again, show in folder.
there you go.
And I want it there. Okay. So
Okay.
I just moved it, I guess.
Yes, yes, you can move it to wherever you want. So you now have the links.
Okay.
Does anybody have, what questions do you have? There was a few things that we covered today.
Yeah, Stan, I got just one comment. This is Jeff. So can you go back to Word? Oh, you are back to Word. So one of the things that I was running into when I was running is it the Ally checker in Blackboard? What's the
Right.
name of that? Is it Ally? Okay. Is it kept telling me that it was either my Word documents or my PDFs or both did not have a title. And I thought that they were talking about, I didn't, use the heading 1 and heading 2 and stuff.
Oh
It
yeah.
ends up, it wasn't anything like that. And so, and you may want to cover that, but you have to go up to the menu item File. So click on File, go to Info, and then over to the right where it's right further where it says Properties, click on Properties right there where your mouse is. And then Advanced Properties. You have to add a title there. Right there is where you have to add a title so it doesn't bark at you constantly saying you don't have a title in your document. So you have to, and every document in Word, and even if you save them as a PDF, it's going to say your PDF doesn't have a title. You're going to have to come back into Word, title it, and then resave it as a PDF and re-upload it, and then it will work. So if you're doing these in Word, which I was, I had to go back through and add a title to everything.
Great
That's
point.
good to know.
Yeah, thank you. That I missed that, so I really appreciate it.
So, Jeff, do you use Google Docs at all? I mean, is that a similar thing? Are those coming up or not? Or you don't know because you don't use that?
I hate Google. So there you go.
Okay.
Basically, they're running the world, and I don't want to participate in that, so I try not to use that.
Yeah, they scare me.
Yeah, but whatever. But I know Stan likes Google, but I have not been in Google to see if that's the case. So
I don't like it either, but it does make the online course stuff a lot easier. So I have just given up.
yeah, no doubt about that. Well, what I've done is anything that I want to share that I don't put in Blackboard, I put on my Google Drive and just share it out that way. And so if I even wanted to put a Word document up there, I could still do that. So that's how I do it.
Thanks.
Yep.
Great. So Stan, is there going to be another Zoom meeting on how to do this same stuff with our PowerPoints?
I did not have one laid out for PowerPoint, but I can add that to the list.
Okay, because I mean,
I'm just running out of summer, so.
There's images that I have to do that are in PowerPoint, and
Yeah,
there's
but
also,
yeah, good point. But a lot of the same things that you would do in Word, the same concepts, the same principles would work in PowerPoint. So let me find a PowerPoint presentation that I can use here. Yeah, I think that'll work. Nah, didn't have any good stuff there. All right, so this one will definitely work. See, I build all my stuff in Google, but so if I was to insert an image for this, let me go. So the big thing is really those, kind of those images. That's probably the biggest thing with PowerPoint. So, we'll grab this Creative Commons image. And so I have this now as an image on my screen. If I right click on it, I can also edit that alt text.
okay.
Right. So that whole process is the same. Right?
All right, that's fine. You had briefly the other day when I talked to you on Zoom showed me something like when I have images that came off of the web, but I didn't have them saved. These are just old images in PowerPoints
Oh, yeah.
that you've had a way to try to find some of them. You showed me.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
You showed me.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. 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 Yeah,
Do you remember that?
Vaguely. Yeah, so there's, you know, four images, right? Whatever, Zeus. We'll look for Zeus today. So you can click on images for Zeus. Ideally, when you're doing a search for images,
Mm-hmm.
I would make sure that you get the usage right. So you apply for reuse. There's a lot more flexibility in using those particular those particular images.
Mm-hmm.
So here I'll go to Wikimedia and I can go ahead and copy that particular image. And now I will go to my PowerPoint and paste that particular image. So now I have that image there. But what I need to do is make sure that I get the alt text right for that particular image.
Uh-huh.
So we'll go back to that particular image, go to where that image actually is, and see if there's any description that they have included with that image that we could use. So this happens to be, you know, Zeus and Hera on Mount Ida. So that is what I'm going to use, and I can also use probably more text to explain it, but that's initially a good place to start, is using the title of what they had. And so now that image should be good to go.
Okay.
So, yeah. So, all right, John Keating, you had your mute off for a while. So what did you have for me?
Okay. When I use articles from the library databases, the message is this HTML file does not have a language set. So it prevents me from getting perfect on my accessibility. How do I correct that, or is it the library, I just live with it?
I've already told the library, hey, get your databases in order. Yeah, there's a lot of folks that have put content up, and I am guilty of it, that I have put content up and I wasn't necessarily correct in accessibility and all the things that I needed to do. So, I mean, if I went to my Dropbox and Google Drive, there's probably tons of stuff that I did not do right. The idea is that we try to get it more right than wrong. So because you're taking that from the library, you can certainly bring that to their attention and say, hey, you're keeping me from a perfect score.
That's right.
But I don't know. That is smaller potatoes than some of the issues that we have with content. So, yeah, I don't have a good answer, but if that's slowing somebody down, you know, there's probably another way we can describe that this language is English, and
so it doesn't prevent the student to read.
It should not.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's preventing you from getting the best score possible, and it certainly probably helps somebody, but it's not.
Okay.
I don't think that is one of those catastrophic things.
Good. Thank you.
You're welcome. Anyone else? Well, I want to wish you a wonderful day. Thank you once again for brightening up my day. I didn't get to see everyone's smiley faces, but I'm good. So thank you ever so much. Oh, there's more contents. Shannon, Catherine, thank you. Hey, Shannon, I sent you some good stuff in your email. We should chat sometime.
I saw that, and I will set up an appointment with you. I appreciate that.
You're welcome. Love
Do
to
you have
help.
days that are better?
Sorry?
Do you have days that are better?
No, not really. It's just, you know, my calendar is always accurate. So, But yeah, just shoot me a note and we'll see if. But yeah, right now between now and the start of school, and I'm really kind of packed, but we'll see if I can squeeze you in because I do have to finish out, kind of review the review I did with you. So
Right.
So I'm probably available this afternoon. Tomorrow I can probably squeeze you in. So
Okay, cool beans. Thank you.
you're welcome. All right, folks. I wish you a wonderful day. So
Thank you.
see ya.
Yep. Take care.
Bye.
Bye.